Loch Ness. If you're not from Scotland, Loch Ness was probably one of the first things you heard about it, and the mystery of what lies beneath its dark waters has stirred countless imaginations. Part of the Great Glen, a giant fault line or fissure that runs across the breadth of the Highlands, the loch itself represents a vast body of water, a great chasm 23 miles long and over 700 feet deep, containing more water than all the lakes in England and Wales combined. Of course, the idea that the loch is home to a prehistoric serpent, or indeed a whole colony of them, is quite incredible. But it has to be said that the idea that the thousands of people who claim to have seen Nessie are all mistaken is even more incredible. The country surrounding the loch is breathtaking and quite literally soaked in history and atmosphere, from 3,000-year-old standing stones and medieval castles to the turbulent times of the Jacobite rebellions, the Highlanders' last stand at Culloden battlefield, and the legend of the Prince in the Heather. Despite its eventful past, the culture and traditions of the Highlands are kept very much alive by the local communities, who will always offer you the warmest of welcomes and the most unique and memorable of times. At the south end of Loch Ness is the picturesque village of Fort Augustus. As its name suggests, the village has connections with Scotland's martial past, but Bonnie Prince Charlie's Highlanders blew up the old fort during the uprising of 1745, and now an impressive Benedictine abbey sits on the site. It has been written that Fort Augustus has somehow managed to retain a sort of medieval ambience, and whilst the pace of life here is relaxed and unfussy, this atmosphere in part has to be attributed to the Caledonian Canal lock system that runs through the village. Built by Thomas Telford in 1820, the locks are still in use today, raising or lowering all manner of vessels some 40 feet. Truly, it is a remarkable feat of engineering. A few miles along the shoreline of Loch Ness from Fort Augustus, where the Invermoriston tumbles into the loch, you'll find the sleepy village of Invermoriston. Spanning the river is the old Telford Bridge. Glenmorrison, which stretches off towards the Isle of Skye, has proud associations with the Jacobite uprising of 1745, including tales of the rebel hero Roderick Mackenzie and the legendary 7 Men of Morrison, bodyguard to the fugitive Bonnie Prince Charlie. The south side of Loch Ness has an otherworldly, untouched quality about it, although the old military road built by General Wade in the early 1700s was once the main thoroughfare, before the A road on the north shore was opened in the 1930s. Along this road marched the Redcoats on their way to Fort Augustus, and then latterly Dr. Samuel Johnston and James Boswell on their celebrated tour of the Highlands. Rabbie Burns came here over 200 years ago and made famous the spectacular Falls of Foyers. In more recent times, the sinister Alistair Crowley, self-styled sorcerer and occultist, lived on the banks of the loch, repeatedly attempting to bring about the end of the world. And as you pass the gates to his house, you'll be sure to feel a wee shiver down your spine. The loch, though, is ever present, and it's from fires that the first photograph of Nessie was taken. The lively village of Drumnadrochit is situated at the head of the largest bay in Loch Ness, at the entrance to Glen Urquhart. On the southern headland of the bay stands the haunting ruin of Urquhart Castle. It has 500 years of turbulent history captured within its walls, and the new visitor centre shows an introductory film which tells its tale from the days of St Columba through the Wars of Independence, the Jacobite troubles, and the castle's explosive exit from the forefront of Scottish history. The Durward, MacDonald and Grant families all have strong associations with this most picturesque ruin, and it still has a story or two to tell for those who explore its tumbled walls. The road out of Drumnadrochit and into Glen Urquhart will take you past a Bronze Age burial tomb and ring of standing stones, before ending up at the serene Glen Affric, where stands the remnants of the ancient Caledonian forest, which once covered all Scotland. Just over an hour's drive from Loch Ness, you'll find the west coast and the famed Isle of Skye, where the grandeur of the Highlands gives way to some of the most spectacular scenery in Europe. This truly is the edge of the world, where myth and legend seem quite real, and the modern world a very long way away.